All right, so welcome to the RCR Momcast, for lack of a better term. I'm Nick. I'm here with my mom, Maria. So how are you doing?
I'm doing good.
Yeah, I suppose I'll get right to it. You were born in Puerto Rico before moving to New York, and you lived in what, three of the five boroughs?
And I lived in Queens, in the Bronx, in Manhattan, and Brooklyn.
Oh, so four of them. Each one except for Staten Island, I guess.
Yeah,
Yeah, and I remember the stories growing up about how Grandpa made flowers, or was essentially like a flower vendor, but he didn't
he was a florist.
a florist, but like also he made them out of sort of paper mache too, didn't he?
Yes, yes. My mom and he would knew how to make flowers look real using paper mache and not paper mache, using crepe paper and dipping it in wax.
And how much would he get for these?
Back then, probably for an arrangement, he would make arrangements and sell them to furniture stores in Brooklyn and in Manhattan mainly. And the furniture stores will buy them to put them on their displays.
Hmm. And during this time, would have been around the late 50s, or early 60s, maybe.
Yes,
Yeah, and
yes.
so around this time, I mean, you guys didn't have a car at all, did you?
Sometimes he had a car. I remember the one car he had a station wagon where he would put all the stuff that he was gonna sell in the back of the station wagon, and that's how he got around. Other times he didn't have a station wagon, but he had a bicycle that had this big box attached to it, and he would put the stuff in the box. He did more selling when he had the station wagon because he wasn't limited to just being in one area. He could go from borough to borough.
Yeah, but also that would be kind of his method for sort of, I guess, dipping out at times.
Yes,
Yeah, for the most part.
yes.
And how long would he be gone for?
My father sometimes would take off and abandon us, for lack of a better word, and he could be gone anywhere from 6 months to 3 years before
Yeah.
we saw him again.
Wow. And would he be in any kind of contact at any time during all of that?
No, no, he would just show up once, one day, come and show up. Like, I remember the last time he left, I was 14, and when he came back, I was 17, ready to graduate high school.
Yeah. And the entire time, Grandma's just working as in hotels and.
Well, the last time he left when I was 14, mom worked as a maid in a hotel in the Astoria.
Oh, yeah, I know where.
Okay, and on the weekends, my brother John would help her make the flowers that she knew how to make, and they would go selling them just like my dad did
Mm.
to make extra money.
You guys came here, it would have been in the mid to late 50s, wouldn't have by coming here, I mean
Puerto
from
Rico?
Puerto Rico to.
Yes, we came from Puerto Rico in 1956, in August of 1956.
And did you guys take a plane?
Yes,
But I just imagine, like, with six kids, the type of logistical nightmare that would have been, you know what I
it
mean?
was, especially since my mother was only 21 at the time.
Yeah, and for her to only be 21 and have all these kids on the same flight, essentially, so what? You got like one free kid, and.
Well, what happened was that back then, children that could sit on a lap did not have to pay airfare.
Mm.
And so my dad, he did one of his disappearing acts while we were in Puerto Rico. And he disappeared, and my mom had no way of supporting the family. And so, because at that time when he left, he wasn't working for himself, he was working for somebody else. So he was working in somebody's flower store or florist.
Yeah.
And he disappeared, and my mom had no way of supporting us. So she called her mother, and her mother decided to send her airplane tickets. And Eli was probably about 18 months old, if not younger,
Yeah.
and Ada was about to be 6 months old.
Mm.
And my grandmother sent enough uh, airline tickets for the kids and my mother. She did not send for Eli or for Ada because they were babies and the babies didn't pay.
Yeah.
The thing was that my mom did not know, because of course she had never flown before, was that children, even though they did not pay, they had to be on somebody's lap, because the reason they did not pay was because they didn't take up a seat.
Mm.
And if they didn't take up a seat, they were taking up somebody's lap.
Yeah.
And so when we got to the airport, I don't remember who took us there, and just dropped us off and left. But I do remember, and I was only 3 years old, but I do remember when my mom went up to the like where you check in.
Yeah.
They told her that she was short a ticket because she only had one lap and she had two babies.
Yeah.
So, and she could not carry both babies on her lap.
No.
And so my mom got very, very upset. And as you know, she told me, because I don't have that much memory of that happening, but she would tell us stories, and one of the stories that she told us was that she didn't know what to do, but she would always pray to God to illuminate her,
Yeah.
and let her come up with a solution.
Yeah.
And so she noticed that there was another couple. There was a couple, a man and a woman, with an old lady, a very old lady, and the woman was crying uncontrollably, and so that lady's suffering took her attention away from her dilemma. And so she just decided to ask that lady, what's your problem? Can we pray for you, or, whatever? And so the lady said that she was upset because her grandmother, the older lady, was gonna travel to New York by herself, and she was afraid if what would happen if there was nobody in that airport waiting for her. If she don't know how to speak English, how is she gonna communicate?
Yeah.
And she was horrified at that thought.
Yeah.
And my mom, just out of the blue, she said to the lady, you know what? I promise you that I will get your mom or your grandmom. I will stay with her till somebody comes, if you allow her to carry my baby. And so that's what they decided to do. And my mom promised that lady, I will stay with your grandmother until somebody comes for her.
And then when you guys made it to the airport, was there anyone there for her?
For us, my grandmother had come with her son-in-law. Her son-in-law happened to be, or my aunt's husband happened to be, a taxi cab driver. So he drove her to the airport and waited with her till we got there. Problem was, nobody was there for the old woman.
Mm.
And so my mom refused to leave. She had promised these people, she said she gave her word.
Well,
And
yeah,
back then, when you gave your word, according to my mom, when you gave your word, it was like a promise that you made that you had to keep. because back then your word meant something.
Well, yeah,
You
she
know,
always told me that you can't say you're going to do something and not do it.
not do it right.
That if you
No
say
matter what happens, you got to do it if you
so,
gave your word. So my mom would not leave, and those people, they got there very very late. I mean, it was going on nighttime,
mm,
and we were hungry. We were tired. You know, my mama has 6 kids crying because they're hungry. They're tired, but she refused to leave the old lady alone because, first of all, the old lady didn't speak English, and neither did my mom. You know,
no, but
but the 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 son-in-law did.
yeah,
You
and
know,
so he could be the
he could,
bridge.
yeah. So finally they were over. My mom told me they were over an hour late. They were
Yeah,
very very late, and and so they finally got there, um, and then my mom was able to leave. You know,
yeah,
she was okay with leaving the lady because the her people had come for her.
yeah.
You know, and it happened that they were late because they hit a traffic jam.
Oh, I can imagine.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
even back then, it's like traffic in New York City, and this was during the time where you could still drive through like Times Square.
right, right.
And I imagine just even getting anywhere around the
Well,
city.
when those people got to the airport and they saw that she was with my mom, and that their grandmother wasn't waiting alone, they were so happy to see that. Um, and they put many many blessings for her and blessing for her children, you know, that their life in New York would be a prosperous one. And my mom says that in a way she was glad that those people came late because it got to be nighttime. And my her brother-in-law, my mother's brother-in-law, who was the one who drove the taxi, um, decided to drive us through Times Square just so that he could see our emotion in seeing something so big, because we came from backwoods
Yeah,
in Puerto Rico, you know, and to see something spectacular
yeah.
like Times Square with all the lights and everything, and at night, you know, he just wanted to see our reaction, you know.
And what was it like for you
Well,
guys?
we were hungry and we were tired, so it
Yeah, I
didn't
did.
really. But my mom was in awe.
Uh,
My mom was in awe. She told me that she'll never forget that feeling of driving through Times Square at night. It was like she was in a dream, you know, and it gave her a feeling that she did the right thing.
Thank you so much for
Hmm.
coming on the podcast. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all the stories. And I don't know, thank you for being the whole reason I'm alive. I love you very much.
I love you too.